everyone, it's me, Julian Greystoke. I'm wearing my Avatar shirt, for reasons that will become clear as the video goes on. Today we're going to talk about one of my all-time favorite tropes, that is the five-man band. Now, other people have already talked about this trope and done a really good job, links in the doobly-doo to one of my favorite videos about that, but I am of the belief that just because someone else has talked about it doesn't mean that you can't do your own take on it. You can't have your own angle. And the angle I'll be coming at this with is not only talking about writing the five-man band trope, but also myself using it in the sci-fi book that I will be querying called The Game, working title. So real quick I'll tell you what the game is about and then we'll get to talking about five-man band. Because if I don't tell you what it's about, it won't make as much sense with the trope. The game stars a woman named Song who is an intergalactic slave. She is sold to what is essentially a gladiatorial arena in space where she meets a unlikely group of fellow slaves. They have to form a team, they have to survive, and they have to eventually try to escape. Pretty simple premise, and as I'm certain you can guess, there's a five-man band going on in this book. But first, what is the five-man band? What is that trope? It is a trope that is in a lot of places, and once you start to look for it, you're going to be surprised how often you can find it. Within the five-man band, there are usually some archetypes that it always falls into, or often falls into. The five main types that you will see are the leader, the lancer, the smart guy, the big guy, and the heart. There are often other characters that get brought into this that are either amalgamations or like they take one of these characters and split them into two characters, giving them like the different character tropes that usually come with these characters. But let's just go through them and talk about what each of these usually entails, and also I'll tell you which of my characters from my book fits this archetype. So first of all, we have the leader. They are usually the main character of the story, or as close as you can come if your story doesn't really have a main character. Obviously for me this would be Song. The leader tends to be, but is not always because there can be variation, charismatic, headstrong, virtuous, and determined. The leader can often be the viewpoint character for the reader, which brings them into the world, and sometimes the leader can be the least interesting because sometimes they can be a little bit bland. I hope that Song isn't that, but I think we all need to remember to focus when we're writing a five-man band on making the leader as interesting as the others. Next we have the lancer, which for me changed mid-book. In the beginning of my book, Kale, who is a fellow human and brand new slave, is the lancer for Song. The lancer being the one who does not get along with the leader, who challenges the leader's ideals, who challenges the leader's ideas. And at first, Song and Kale don't get along. He is determined to be free, and she is determined to keep her head down and be quiet and try not to die. But that slowly changes through the story, where Kale and Song become friends, and that leaves it open for a character called Ray to become the new lancer. Ray was a bit of a surprise. I thought that she was going to be a bit more quiet, possibly becoming the heart, which we'll talk about later. But it turned out Ray was very much a lancer. She had her own ideas, and she pushes against Song any chance she gets. A lancer is often driven, self-assured, and usually sports opposite qualities and opinions to whatever the main character or the leader has. The lancer is a really fun archetype to play with because, as happened in my book, it's really fun to watch the lancer and the leader become friends in spite of their differences. Now let's talk about the smart guy. This one's fairly self-explanatory. My smart guy is 5. He's a little alien whose species is short-lived, but because of that they learn very quickly and are very intelligent and tech-savvy. The smart guy is usually physically weak but mentally strong, younger, awkward and funny. He's sometimes the trickster, and often the other half of the big guy, which we'll be talking about in just a second. In fact, we're going to start talking about it right now. Then there's the big guy. or girl, doesn't have to be a guy. My big guy is Brute. He is a Kulgar, which are these giant lizard aliens, and he gets put on the team towards the middle of the story. The big guy is usually physically imposing, dangerous, secretly loving with a softer side, and if there are magical abilities in your story, he tends to focus on physical type attacks or power-based things. Now, your big guy doesn't necessarily have to be big. It's just kind of the archetype. They could be the smallest one in the group. In fact, that's a popular thing to do. But they are the heavy hitter, the hammer, the blunt object. Often, though, they have a soft side that they don't like to show until they get to know the other characters. And as we mentioned, they can often be the other half of the smart guy. And finally, the last member of the 5-man band is the heart or the healer. This could be a toss-up in my story between Kale, later in the story, and Septimus, who also comes in later in the story. And they might sort of both be the heart. Kale is extremely loving, caring, and looks after the team. He's the mom friend. And Septimus is quiet, intelligent, and fairly emotionally put together. He's steadier emotionally than a lot of the other characters. The heart is the peacekeeper, soft, the mom friend, vulnerable. If there are powers involved, they often have healing powers. Now, these are just the basic archetypes for the 5-man band, but as you noticed in my story, it happens, more characters can be there. You don't need only 5, and often they share characteristics or share an archetype, such as Kale and Septimus, both being the heart of the team in different ways. Now let's talk about why we should write the 5-man band if we want to, and why people are so drawn to it. One of the first reasons is that so many different characters means there's lots of room for juicy interpersonal conflict, especially between the leader and the Lancer. Another big draw is found family. We love these characters who are so different coming together and becoming so close that they are a family. The 5-man band can also lead to another trope that I love, teamwork saves the day. I often get tired and exhausted by the hero having to go alone to having to save the day by themselves, so it's always great when I can get a story where characters working together are the reason that the day is saved. And the 5-man band is the perfect way to bring that in. A 5-man band often means that there's a character for everyone to identify with. A lot of times in a 5-man band story, it's a lot more even as far as the characters. Even though the leader might be the main character, the others do get a lot of fleshing out as well. So there's somebody for you to latch onto even if you don't like the leader. And finally, the 5-man band is really great for character-driven stories, which is what the game is. It might be sci-fi and action, but there's a lot of character stuff going on. Because it's me. Hello. Hi. Have we met? I love character stuff. So if you're really excited about working with characters, a 5-man band is a great way to go. I did try to find some reasons to maybe not use the 5-man band, and I struggled because this is a trope that I really like. But a couple of reasons are, don't use the 5-man band if you're forcing it. Here's the thing about writing the game. This trope occurred naturally. I didn't plan it. I didn't think to myself, oh, well, Kale is going to be the Lancer first, but then he's going to be the heart. I didn't think, oh, I need a big guy. All of these characters just kind of came naturally into the story and fell into these dynamics naturally, which is why I think it's such a popular trope, is because these archetypes fit and come naturally in a story. However, if you're forcing it, it's not going to work for you. So I recommend you don't necessarily set out to write a 5-man band story, but you just set out to write an ensemble story and see where it gets you. And another reason not to write a 5-man band story is if you struggle with writing characters. Like if you're newer and you really have a trouble differentiating voice, differentiating character types, then maybe write it for practice, but don't expect to go places with it until you have a little bit more experience. This is just a maybe. You can do it if you want to challenge yourself, but if you are really struggling with characters, then maybe a 5-man band isn't the way to go. Maybe start with maybe a 3-man band, something a little smaller, and work your way up. So those are my thoughts on the 5-man band. Do you guys like this trope? I hope you do, because I really love it. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. As you guys know, there's a ton of content on this channel, free for the binge watching, so go check all of it out. It's all in playlists. It's super easy. If you want to support this channel monetarily, you can support me over on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you can have access to exclusive content not seen here on the regular channel, including me talking a little bit more about my books and my process, so that's exciting if that interests you. I post brand new videos Mondays and Fridays. All the links to my social media are in the doobly-doo for ease of your clicking, and I'll see you guys again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye! Well, look at that. It's time for this month's patrons. This month we have Lennox, Amanda, Jenny, Jesper, Kim, Lisa, Ryakio, Sabby Panda, Sarah, Savvy, and Scribbling Cat. As usual, you guys, you rock my socks off.